Well, I am pleased to be joined by one of the members of Andretti Autosport's juggernaut, a multi-car team that competes regularly on the NTT IndyCar Series. He is the winner of the 100th Indianapolis 500. We're talking about Alexander Rossi. Alexander, thanks so much for joining us. How are you today?
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Yeah, man, I'm good. It's nice to get a day off.
Let me jump right into the dynamics of Andretti Autosport from your perspective. You are part of, on a regular basis, a four-car team with yourself, Ryan, and Hinch, and the wild man, Colton Herta. Where do you fit, or is there a pecking order? Can you take us behind the curtain a little bit about Andretti Autosport and how they approach it?
Sure. I think that it's a big effort from the whole organization to run the amount of cars that we do. Obviously, there's other teams that run 4 full-time cars during the year, which is pretty manageable for a team of Andretti's size. When we get to the 500 and we're running 6, it's pretty chaotic. But I think for the most part, they do an incredible job of preparing fast race cars to give each driver a shot to go win the race. So it's a lot of effort from Michael all the way down, and it can't be underestimated how difficult it is to kind of prep that amount of cars to a level that's necessary these days to be competitive. So the only downside to it really is the debriefs are pretty long, and sometimes logistically it's a little challenging, but I think for the most part, especially during a month that is as long as May, we can use all of the different experiences and input and kind of resources from having that many kind of individual teams and drivers within the organization to help guide the ship forward and to make sure that everyone is accomplishing as much as possible.
As I alluded to, you won the 100th Indy 500 as a rookie back in 2016. And we always talk about, or at least the media talks about, the way Takuma Sato attacks the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He lives by that motto, and no risk, no chance. And he's a guy that lives on the edge, whether it's Indy or Detroit or Barber. But you seem to have the same sort of put it out on the razor's edge as Sato does. Do you see it that way?
Not really. No.
Okay.
I think you're right. He is very much no attack, no chance in kind of everything that he does. I was his teammate in 2017 and witnessed it firsthand. And obviously, he's won 2 500s and, almost honestly has won 3. If you look back to whatever year that was when him and Dario, almost came together in turn 1. So, he's very, very brave around the speedway, which for the most part is rewarding. For me, I love the competition, and I love the aspect of a 500-mile race and how many, how much it ebbs and flows, and you're never really out of it until you're actually out of it. So for me, I'm grateful to be able to always be in a quick car and have the opportunity to race at the front. And, this year, I think we have just as good of a shot as the other years to hopefully get number 2. And we'll be doing everything we can to make that happen.
If you had to choose at this point in your career, Alexander, winning a second Indianapolis 500 or checking the box off on your resume by finally capturing a championship, you can only choose one. Which one do you go for?
Well, considering we're 5 days away from the Indy 500, I don't know. Honestly, the championship, but at this point, especially with how the start of our season's gone, we're 100% focused on the 500. So, I would still have to say that winning the championship is something that I crave a lot. And I think ultimately for the duration of one's career is probably a little bit more important, but the emotional satisfaction that you get from winning a 500 is second to none.
Well, there's no question about that, but it just I'm interested in just how once we get past the 500, just how important it is for you to dig yourself out of that early problem hole this season, and certainly you still can do it, and finally attain the one thing that seems to, I shouldn't say haunt you, but seems to be out there that you want just as bad as an Indy 500 win.
I mean, it's pretty easy. You look at this race is a race in the championship. It's double points, so it's obviously critical that you finish and you finish well. But I mean, from a championship standpoint, Detroit in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever, is just as important. It's a doubleheader. It's a track that we've been incredibly strong at in the past. And had 2 wins slip away from us there for various reasons. So, we are spending as much time, even now in the month of May, kind of talking about, our plans for Detroit and what we have going into that event. So, you cherish the Indy 500. You love the opportunity to get to compete in it. You love the legacy and how special this event is, but it also is another race in the championship, and you gotta go out in there. You gotta go with the mindset of you gotta finish in the top 5, and you gotta take away a lot of points.
We're finally at least on the road to getting full capacity to all of our IndyCar events. Saw it at Indy, and I heard a driver say racing may be the heart of IndyCar, but it's the fans that are the soul. Well, how does that, or does it affect the way you go about business? Because boy, it was weird last August when Sato got out of the car and it was dead silence.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's that's a very, whoever said that is very wise, and that's a very good way of putting it. I think, the 500 is a spectacle only because of the fans, and we saw that last year that. It's still the Indy 500. You still have the same nerves. It still has the same importance to the teams and everyone involved. But ultimately, when you are on the grid about to get into the car and you're listening to the national anthem and the stands are empty, it's not very cool. Like, it's just another race.
Yeah.
Why we love the 500 is because of all those other elements that the fans bring to the table.
If fans don't really spend the time to look into some of the things that you do outside the race car, they may not realize the depth of, your sense of humor and your perspective on things. But if they listen to you and Hinch and your podcast, my, oh my, you guys, there's no holds barred, and certainly no topic that isn't worth discussing.
That's very true. I think the podcast started out as kind of just an experiment because James had a show back in kind of 2016 and earlier called The Mayor on Air. Mm-hmm. And then his producer kind of moved on to other things. And James and I were very good friends, and our really close friend Tim was a writer in Los Angeles, and he was like, we should do a podcast with the two of you. And he was like, I'll take care of all the editing and everything. And so we were like, okay, I guess we can try it. And it started out as something that was like, we were trying to interview other athletes and other celebrities that have to deal with unique life situations. Right. Mm-hmm. And then, it kind of was like, well, this is dumb. People want to hear about racing. So then we kind of just axe that whole idea and talk about, just your experiences as a racing driver, but outside of the race car, right? At the end of the day, we're normal human beings that, have normal stuff to deal with in life. And I think people have really appreciated getting to see that kind of side of us.
Well, it's available wherever you can download podcasts, much the same as this one is. But give my listeners the title, and it does air on Sirius XM radio as well.
Yeah. It is on Sirius XM. It's called Off Track with Hinch and Rossi. Someone on part of the NBC team asked me yesterday, they were like, should it be Off Track with Rossi and Hinch? And I said, absolutely not. Like, it's kind of cool how the two of us balance each other out. We obviously have very different personalities, but I think James is the outgoing, very, very well-spoken Canadian, and me kind of the guy that's just here trying to compete and win races. And we have, differing viewpoints on things, but we also share a lot of the same perspectives. So it's cool to be able to, like I said, share that with people who might not see that, when you're watching just a normal broadcast at home.
Well, it's very, very enjoyable, and I do appreciate you leaving your podcast and joining mine today, and wish you nothing but the very best as we continue with the NTT IndyCar season.
No worries, man. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Alexander. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Have a good one.